is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we're live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. 1 hour from now on Monday, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong. There is plenty of both, and Joy Taylor is joining me this morning, as always. Joy, how was your weekend, by the way? You went out east.
I went to Pittsburgh, yes. Went home to see the family. It's my nephew's 16th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Sam.
By the way, it's a heat wave out there.
It was every bit of a northeast humid weekend. Like the unbearable, just walk outside and you're just immediately sweating. Like it's so hot you don't want to speak to each other. It was so humid, but it was nice to be home though.
Yeah, I think our friends in the Northeast, I think that's breaking today. I think the heat wave is, the Midwest had it, then it moved to the Northeast. Yeah. It is one of those, we get one or two a summer, just disgusting 4 or 5 days of unbearable heat. So the good news is for our friends out east, it is moving on, I think, in the next 24 hours. It's football season, right? And I didn't grow up a Patriot fan. I did not. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. I've bounced around the country. I lived in Florida. I've lived in Nevada. Then it was Connecticut. But one of the things I've said is I didn't grow up a Patriot fan, but I became a fan of the way they do business. It is football for smart people. And I've watched a lot of football in my life, a lot of college and a lot of pro, and I'd never seen football that was as smart as the way New England does it. They've always got a purpose. Every play, every series, every game, every month. And they kind of keep rinsing and repeating. September is their experimental month. Thanksgiving is the kind of the point of the season where they tighten up the screws and they play great football. They just keep doing it over and over and over again. And they continue to have doubters. Belichick has just created a system. Brady's a system quarterback. But Tony Romo was talking about Bill Belichick this weekend, and Romo had his first year in the booth for CBS. Romo did a great job. And Romo was talking about Belichick and how, and this is something to say because Romo's a student of the game. Romo's a smart guy. Romo's a home run as an announcer. I think he surprised even the people that thought he would be good. He was great. And he talked about Belichick and how he's different than other people in football.
When I'm around him, I learn. And that's really a joy when you can really learn something more about football with people around. When you have people that can teach you the game after you've been studying for 15, 20 years, that's a joy. I mean, I honestly learn every time I'm around him. And he's really, really special.
I have a couple of friends who are very close with Belichick. One, in fact, vacations with Bill. And they always say the same thing. Bill's a very curious person. His mom spoke multiple languages. His dad sort of created scouting. He had very academic, very cerebral parents, and they created a very cerebral little boy who is a studier and a reader, and he's curious, and he's always growing, and he doesn't rest on his laurels. He's uniquely built to be a great coach. He's super creative and super curious. Credit his mother and credit his father and credit the household. They created that. I think what we have with Belichick, and we don't want to admit it because we love football, and football is the sport of hope, right? We all have a chance to win. Like 22 of the 32 teams can make an argument and they can win the Super Bowl. It doesn't work that way in the NBA, baseball, MLS, hockey. But I think we have the greatest gap in the history of any sport in coaching. Think about how great Coach K is, right? Now think about this at Duke. Coach K is great. He's so great in college, we let him coach our pros in the Olympics. And in 15 years, with massive talent advantages at Duke, they've been to 2 Final Fours. We think Nick Saban's great. Nick Saban, because you can recruit 25 new first-rounders every year in college, with massive talent advantages in his career, is 14-10 in bowl games. And after they lose to Clemson this year, they'll be 14-11 in 25 bowl games. We saw Bill Belichick, the greatest football coach ever, against the best young football coach in the Super Bowl. It was a clinic. It was embarrassing for Sean McVay. It was a clinic. Fans and the media get so enamored with talent. When has New England ever had the best talent? One time. 2007, they had the best personnel in the league on offense. They went 16-0 and broke every record. You really think when Freddie Kitchens and Belichick meet in Week 8 this year, it's a fair fight? Really? When Belichick was winning his first Super Bowl, Freddie Kitchens was the running back coach at North Texas. It's not a fair fight. Even Hall of Fame coaches, and Mike Tomlin will be a Hall of Fame coach, appear outmatched. Even young coaches we think are excellent, Anthony Lynn of the Chargers, flummoxed. In 20 years, there are only 2 coaches that have truly given Bill Belichick trouble. Number 1, Andy Reid in the regular season, and number 2, Tom Coughlin in the postseason. Outside of that, even when he went up against Pete Carroll in a Super Bowl, or Mike Tomlin, and those are first ballot Hall of Fame guys, Tony Dungy's, it felt like he was sort of on a different level. Sean McVay in the Super Bowl, on a completely different level. So we look at these great coaches in sports, as great as Krzyzewski is, with talent advantages, as great as Saban is, with massive talent and money advantages from the SEC. They don't dominate like Bill Belichick does, who's going to win what? His 12th out of the last 13 years. He's going to win his division, have a bye, host a playoff game. I mean, there was a moment last year. Remember when the Rams played the Chiefs in the Coliseum? 1,000 yards. Remember that game? It's the craziest football game I've ever seen. There were 105 points, and there were over 1,000 yards. They were the 2 most explosive offenses all year. Bill Belichick, who's a defensive coach, his history is in defense, played the Chiefs and the Rams. Combined, they scored 0 points in the first half. And that's the game plan part of a football game. Second halves, you can make adjustments, but who's got more depth? Who's got more power? Who's got better players? First half is a game plan. We're going to unveil it. The Chiefs and the Rams in the Super Bowl combined, those 2 played New England, could not score a point. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce couldn't score a point. Robert Woods, Jared Goff, Sean McVay, Andrew Whitworth, Todd Gurley couldn't score a point combined against Belichick's game plans in the first half. There's never been a gap in coaching in any sport, any level, like Belichick and the rest of the NFL. At 9:30, we're going to have a young man who wrote a piece on Odell Beckham for Gentleman Quarterly. His name is Mark Anthony Green. It's a fascinating article, and I'd like to talk about it for a couple of minutes. It talks about a bunch of stuff. But I've said before, I think Odell Beckham in Cleveland is going to work initially. I have questions about how it works long term. And the reason being is Cleveland in the offseason just added to their strengths and didn't solve their weaknesses. Their weakness was their offensive line. Their strengths were running back and wide receiver. Well, they just added really great players in both of those. And I do have questions long term. After reading this article, Odell Beckham has certain stats he wants to reach, like 23,000 yards. He has no chance to reach that if Jarvis Landry's on the other side of the field. Jarvis Landry is a 90-catch wide receiver. That's what he averages. He's a 4 straight Pro Bowl, 90-catch-a-year receiver. Calling their friends. There's an old saying, friends don't let friends drive drunk. Friends also don't let friends have 45 of their catches. It just doesn't work that way. James Harden and Russell Westbrook could be friends. Friends don't give the ball and 17 points a night up to their friends. These are short careers. So the interview is fascinating. Odell Beckham is very aware of certain statistical goals he wants to reach, and he has no chance to reach them because the guy who's his friend, Jarvis Landry, is a 90-catch fledgling star wide receiver and a volume catcher. He ain't giving 40 catches up to Odell Beckham, and they've got the best young tight end in football, and they've got 3 legitimate running backs. So Cleveland, in baseball, the Dodgers need bullpen help. They wouldn't go get another starter. In basketball, the Utah Jazz needed a point guard that could shoot and an outside guy that could shoot. That's what the Utah Jazz acquired. In basketball, you find pieces you don't have. In baseball, you fill up the bullpen if it's struggling. In football, the Browns had a great wide receiver and a great tight end and several backs, and they've added to all of them. And what's interesting is Odell in this interview has real statistical global goals from his brand to his numbers he wants to achieve. They mean a lot to him, and I think that's great. He's not going to reach those. I mean, he's fully aware of his numbers. At one point, he talked about his Instagram page. He goes, I remember that great catch. I went home and I added like 100,000 Instagram followers, then 200,000. If you would have asked me 5 years ago I'd have 13 million followers on Instagram, I would have told you, nah, no way. Numbers he likes to achieve. He's keeping track, and that's okay. I like goals, and I like people who set them. But it will be fascinating after you read this article to see how it works in Cleveland, because the Browns general manager, they didn't need a wide receiver, and they didn't need running backs, and they added both. What they needed was a better offensive line and better tackles, and they added neither. And there are so many interesting parts of this interview. I'm going to have the guy who wrote it coming up in about 15 minutes. But the Odell Cleveland story, I think, will work initially. But it's going to have some Harden Westbrook to it. When you put two superstar gifted players, even when they're great friends together, guys don't let other guys have their catches. It just doesn't work that way. It's going to be I think it's going to work initially, but when you start reading this and you see Odell's goals and the Jerry Rice numbers he talks about and the Instagram followers, he's aware of this stuff. And Jarvis Landry is as good as almost any young wide receiver in the game, and he's a 90-catch wide receiver. There's no room for another guy to make 80. They just don't have that many. They don't have that many plays. Chris Carter this morning talked about it like he had to work and play with Randy Moss at one point. Here's Chris Carter.
When Dennis Green started putting Randy Moss in my position in the offense, and he started letting Randy know, listen, we can dictate the coverage. I'm going to show you the secret recipe to how we've been making this guy so good. Didn't like that one so much. So Harden, former MVP. Harden is trying to get postseason success. He don't need Russ, all right now in his career. I didn't need Randy Moss. It was up to the coaches to be able to find the system, and it worked for about 3.5 years. Right. In 3.5 years, that's when they started putting him in my spot, and I wasn't happy.
Yeah, it's really going to be fascinating to watch. The Harden Westbrook thing is going to feel like Odell and Jarvis. Friends will make it work for a while. But, man, these athletes, these are short careers, and when they have global aspirations and lofty all-time aspirations, that friendship stuff goes out the door really quick. We'll have the writer, Mark Anthony Green, 9:30 on the Odell piece in GQ. Some thoughts about what Brett Favre said this weekend about two quarterbacks in the NFL. I totally disagree with him. Joy's around the corner, too. Live in Los Angeles, this is The Herd. Summer is here, and it's barbecue season. Did some grilling over the weekend. It's just fantastic time of the year. It's sunny out now. Now, it's cooling down in the Northeast. Now you can go back outside. You could actually grill. Why not use the best meat available via ButcherBox? Grass-fed beef, organic chicken, wild-caught salmon, heritage breed pork. ButcherBox works closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely. So it's not only an ethical process, but it results in a better quality, better tasting, nutrient-dense meat, no added hormones. Free shipping, too, translates to under $6 a meal, which is a remarkable price for the quality of protein here. ButcherBox, all you have to do is sign up right now. Be a new member. ButcherBox.com/herd. ButcherBox.com/HERD. Two things will happen. You'll get $20 off your first box, plus 6 free burgers in every box.